Hi, my name is Holger Karl. I'm teaching various courses at Paderborn University. And since we are going to face another Corona semester in the winter, I'd like to share some observations we had from the past summer semester, where we also had online-based teaching, and hopefully give you some ideas how to better learn in Corona times. So the observation is that learning in general is certainly always a challenging process. This is not easy to do. In Corona times, when there's no in-person classes, it's certainly a double challenge. There's the social context missing. Many people need to do them themselves, and that is not an easy process to organize, and you need to really be aware of what you're doing and plan what you're doing yourself. So here are a couple of observations that may help you, hopefully, to be more efficient in your learning process, to take more away from even an online class. The material I'm talking about here is mostly taken from a book by Omrod, How We Think and Learn. I really recommend that. This is a nice read. This is not too technical. This is for an everyday audience, from a psychologist who specializes in learning and thinking processes. This really gives a lot of interesting background. Mostly here I'm talking about material in chapter 7, but the entire book is very interesting if you want to reflect on how you learn and what happens when you acquire knowledge and put things in memory. So, a bit more specifically, when we talk about Corona, self-learning is what is much more important now than it is already in a normal semester for a student with classes taking place in person. Without classes, or with classes only taking place as screencasts or in an online version, this continuous stimulus that you get when you just go to classes regularly, that is missing. This is lacking. There's no perpetual, periodic impetus or stimulus going on. So you need to do that yourself. Maybe there is in a campus management system or in the learning management systems, there are deadlines to various courses or to various screencasts. But hey, this is so easy to ignore, right? So the important thing is you need to become a self-regulated learner. You regulate your own learning speed, your learning process, and there is maybe some help from your teachers that structure that, but mostly this is your own job now, much more so than in an offline in-person semester with just online resources. You need to do that yourself. You need to put some structure in your learning process, build routines, build maybe even rituals to do so. Structure your week accordingly. There's no single recipe that fits for everybody, but I encourage you to think about that, what type of structure you could build and create for your own learning process. The important thing is, when you do that, keep in mind learning is an active process. It is not just passive reception. If you think you are doing a good job in learning by listening to screencasts and listening to the same screencast 5 times and then think, okay, I've done my share, I've put so much time into it, then you probably failed what you actually could achieve and what you actually could get as an outcome by thinking of learning as indeed an active process where you work with the material, where you reflect on the material and you challenge the material. You think, well, is this true? Is there a mistake there? This is the key point of being an active learner. And that is what really creates memory, lasting memory and knowledge in your mind. So when we are talking about knowledge, it also makes sense to manage your own expectations. What type of knowledge do you expect to get out of a particular class or a particular course or an individual lecture? Is this just mere facts, like you would learn vocabulary? A house is a house and a dog is a Hund, from English to German or whatever. Is this just mere facts without any particular inbuilt logic? Or is this something that has logic, that has structure, certain processes or procedures that do make sense and that have a rationale and a reason why they are this way, and a reason why they are not structured differently? Or what are the options to look at? And what are the requirements to choose between different options? What makes this option better than that option in this particular scenario? What are methods from a field you could acquire? Are we talking about design techniques or evaluation techniques, method to evaluate versus various designs with respect to certain requirements? Is this how you do it? Do you want to pick a particular concrete example? Would simulation be a suitable technique to evaluate? What are the questions you should ask? Or is it more meta knowledge? Is it more procedural knowledge in the sense, should this class teach you to compare, to judge these options, to give recommendations. This is typically what masterclasses shoot for. And that steers your learning process. If you expect to learn, to judge, to compare, to evaluate, to recommend various systems, then just in your learning process, trying to absorb facts is not the point. You're training for the wrong goal then. There's this nice saying from the sports and fitness community. If all you do is jogging slowly, you will become an excellent slow jogger, but you will not grow towards higher levels of capabilities. And it's the same thing here. If all you do by consuming screencasts is to absorb facts and descriptive knowledge, then this is all you will be able to do. And you fail short of the mark what you actually could achieve from that. Similarly, how do you evaluate what is true or false? Take nothing by face of authority. Do not trust teachers. We all make mistakes. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And state your reasons and talk to us. And then we will be happy to check with that, correct our mistakes or clarify possible misunderstandings. This is where real knowledge and real understanding starts from. And related to that, but slightly different, the main trap you could fall in is the famous confirmation bias. I'm sure you've heard that discussion from social media bubbles and echo chambers. Humans like to be right, right? You do, I do. We all like to be right. We enjoy that. We enjoy to see our knowledge confirmed. So we seek out, subconsciously, we seek out information that confirms what we already know, right? But this is not learning, right? This is just patting yourself on the back. Hey, I'm smart already. I don't need additional information. On the contrary, during learning, you should seek out information, facts, knowledge that contradict what you already know, or at least that challenge what you already know. And only if you cannot challenge yourself and your own knowledge any longer, then either you are right or you have to change your knowledge and change your preconceptions. And then this is what you really, when you really make progress. Now, how do you know that you made progress? You need to monitor yourself. In such an online only, without in-person classes situation that we're going to face for the winter semester, monitoring progress is something that we as teachers can only do to a very limited degree. In class, I can talk to you and I can see from body language and mimics and people sitting there avoiding eye contact during class, looking anywhere but not in my face, not in my eyes. I know that something is wrong and I know that there's an issue. If I'm doing a screencast beforehand, this is impossible. So you need to monitor your own progress. Now, monitoring progress, you need to watch out what you do monitor. Memorizing, even if you could verbatim repeat what's on the slides of a class, this is not progress. Then you might have monitored something, but this is not progress. You need to be able to work with the material. How do you do that? You need to be active. And that's your monitoring process. Be active to work with the material. And there's plenty of quizzes, plenty of options. So there's quizzes you could do. Maybe they are in your learning management system. Maybe they're homework assignments. Do that. Do the homework assignments. Even if you don't hand them in, do the homework assignments for your own sake. This is where you really can check whether you understood things. Don't nod to yourself, yes, I've understood that. Do it. Apply the knowledge. Quiz yourself if there are no quizzes available. We'll come to possible questions in a second. Or your fellow students, even better. Ask your fellow students, how does this work? Why is it like that? Talk to your fellow students. Also, this is the best possible exam preparation. Because in an exam, this is exactly what you're going to do. You have to answer questions. You don't pass an exam or get good grades if you just parrot back information. You need to work with that. You need to answer questions on that. And you train that by answering questions. By talking about the material, not by looking at the slides again and again and saying, okay, I understood. No, you haven't. You're not able to talk about it. If you don't want to do that, then write stuff down. Write summaries of the material. Create mind maps, whatever piques your fancy, but work with the material. All of that is excellent exam preparation. That's the best way you can possibly do that. And also, repeatedly. Do that repeatedly. Once is not enough. Do spaced repetition things. Do a spaced repetition repeated in bigger and bigger spacings. Typical vocabulary training applications work exactly like that. And it's the same thing here. Even if it's not rote learning, even if you don't learn things by heart, spaced repetition is still what you want to do. You want to go back to old material ever so often and check whether you still can work with that. Now, I've been talking here about these self-quizzes or quizzing your fellow students. What could you ask in these quizzes? Let me give you some ideas here. Type of questions you could think of, and this is stuff that will also appear in exams, right? Look at two systems, technologies, approaches, methods, X and Y. In what sense are they similar? In what sense are they different? Can you explain these differences and similarities in the assumptions, in the procedures, in the results that they get? This is all the typical things to look for. For a single system, can you describe strength? Can you describe weaknesses? What assumptions are there in order to be able to apply a particular approach? Explain why something is that. Why was this design chosen? What's the reason behind choosing this when that other option might have been so much more self-suggesting, self-apparent? No, there are reasons for doing that. Can you name them? Can you explain why that's the case? Or if you look at a particular technique X, a new algorithm, a new approach to do something, explain how to use that. To what can you apply it? Think of examples not in your classes, not on your slides. All that helps. Fiddle with that. Imagine you change something. Imagine you change an assumption. You change a working procedure as part of such a technique X. What happens then? Is it still working? Is it better? In what sense is it worse? That's the typical things you ask. Or, and maybe most importantly, put things into perspective, into relation with things you already know. Typically, we learn by putting things into perspective and into relation with knowledge that we already have. So the more you know, the easier it becomes to learn. Try that. Put it together, see, oh, but this is similar to that, and it differs in the following sense, even if that is from your bachelor classes from long ago, right? And then you can draw comparisons, parallels, differences. Never just tell yourself, oh, I understood that. Look at the slides. Oh, okay, I understood. No, you haven't. If you cannot explain it, if you cannot apply the material, you have not understood it. You maybe think you've understood that, but that's not necessarily true. Typically, it isn't. Now, that all being said and done, it's not the first time you're learning something, right? You have learned stuff before. So you had learning strategies, and you have learning strategies. But maybe they are not perfect. So maybe you can improve on them. So what I encourage you to do is reflect on your own learning strategies. Think about what makes you a good learner or what makes you a bad learner. Think what type of material you had an easy time to learn or a hard time to learn. When you learn a new language, is it easy for you to learn vocabulary? Are you good learning by heart? Grammar, something with structure, idioms, etc. In sports instructions, what was easy for you? Was it easy to repeat skills? Was it easy to understand rules? In music, if you play an instrument, the mechanical skills you acquire are quite similar to many things we do in computer science. Programming, in a sense, is not that much different from playing an instrument in many sense. It's a praxis that you need to acquire. So this is all things to think about. Where you're successful, what type of skills were not so nice, and how can you improve on that? Now, there's plenty of literature on that. The only thing I want to say here is don't believe in any miracle skills. It doesn't matter whether you sleep on your left or your right-hand side. It doesn't influence your knowledge and memory retention capabilities. What does matter is be realistic. Be fair and be realistic with yourself. Have realistic expectations of what you can do and cannot do within a limited set of time. If you think you're a great learner and everything is easy for you, do a simple thing. Pick 20 words from a language you don't speak and try to learn them within a limited amount of time, 5 minutes. And then a week later, try to recall and see what you still learn. And that's probably, you immediately see how realistic your expectations were. So there's lots of more material. I really do encourage you to have a look at, this is a nice book, but there's plenty other books like that. So look at that material and manage your own learning process. If you want to discuss on that, I'm happy to do so. Leave some comments and drop me an email. I'll be happy to go into more details on a one-by-one basis if you like. Thanks for listening.